Welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to answer the question, how much do I need to invest in real estate if I buy tax deed property? Well, I'm Ted Thomas, and I've been involved in real estate since 1970. And for the past 25 years, I've specialized in tax defaulted property, tax deeds, and also tax lien certificates. So this is a way to make some serious money and not need a lot of money to get started. So the real estate is really a dream of an awful lot of people. There's thousands of books that are written on it, and there's lots of TV shows that you can watch that show you a lot about real estate. A lot of that isn't quite the kind of real estate that you're really going to make any money on, because if you're trying to fix properties up like they show, they look like a little old house, and 29 minutes later they look like a mansion. That's going to cost you a lot of money. So I'm going to show you how to get involved when you don't need very much money and you'll be able to make a lot of money. So I'm going to answer the question today. Making money in real estate is a dream for most people. Now, thousands of books have been written about real estate. There's lots of TV shows out there. The TV shows are keeping people excited about real estate, but I'm not so sure that you can take those little houses that they take and make them into mansions and do it in 29 minutes that you're going to make any money that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the exact strategies to start out with a little bit of money and make real estate an issue that you can make a lot of money with. Now, investors make all kinds of mistakes. So what I want to do is tell you a couple of those to avoid, and I'm going to do those at the very end of this video. So stay tuned, and I'll tell you about 2 mistakes you definitely don't want to make. Okay, how much do you need to invest in real estate if you buy tax defaulted property or tax deed property? Now, I'm going to give you some insights and some strategies that will help you make money, and I'll show you kind of some broad market things that if you think about those, you'll be able to convert those ideas right into real estate, and this will really work for you. Now, real estate training has got a high level of pitch and telling you how much hype there is and all that. This isn't going to be that. I'm just going to show you a low-level project that will work for you. You need a little bit of money, but you're going to make a lot of money if you'll just follow the step-by-step process. This is not difficult stuff. Okay, now I have students that make 6-figure incomes doing this because this business has been around for well over 200 years. I'm talking about tax defaulted property, tax deeds, and I'm also going to talk about tax lien certificates. So let's talk about a business model that will work for you. You already have seen this business model working in your neighborhood. Costco, Target, Walmart, they all do the same thing. They buy it at a low price, mark it up a little bit, and then they resell it. Okay, so people looking for bargains go there to those stores. Okay, another group of companies that have thought this out very well are Wells Fargo Bank, Bank of America. You're getting the idea? What they're doing is they're telling people to do things on installments. Now, those are 2 things that America likes. They like bargains, and they want to buy in installments. All right, so if you know those 2 things, now let's add this to where we're going to buy real estate for 60, 70, and 80% discounts. If we buy for 60, 70, 80%, now we've got a leg up. We're way ahead of everybody else. Now, you're going to want to make comments as we go along. You're going to have questions right below me. There'll be a place to put those questions. We answer all the questions, so put them there. And when you do, I'll also send you a free gift. The easy part of this business is tax lien certificates, because you invest with the county, you get a check back from the county. A little more complex part, but hugely profitable, are tax deeds and tax defaulted property. Now, there's 5,000 auctions every year. They're done in 3,000 different counties, okay? Now, the local county has to collect taxes. Now, every property in the United States is taxable except schools and churches. The local treasurer has to collect that money. In other words, the state legislature tells the treasurer, you must levy taxes, you must collect taxes, and if you can't collect the taxes, then you confiscate the property and will sell it at auction for the back taxes. Now, when they sell those properties, you and I want to be there at those auctions. Okay, they're going to give us a 60, 70, or 80% discount, and the properties will be sold with no mortgage. So when you can buy with those kind of discounts and then have plenty of margin to mark it up, you're going to see a system that's always going to work for you. All right, now this system has been around for well over 200 years. I didn't invent it. It was invented by the local legislature of the state and by the county. That's who invented it, so people would pay their tax. And if they didn't, they actually lose the property. Now, if you live in a low population county, you're not going to find thousands. You're going to find hundreds of these. But if you live in a high population county well, then you're going to find out that there's going to be literally hundreds of these. Now, it doesn't matter where you live because we're going to teach you how to do it online. So we can teach you how to access every property in the United States online, so there'll be a never-ending supply. So now what I'm telling you is there's a never-ending supply of bargain properties, 60, 70, 80% discount that you can buy. Now, what are we going to do with them? Well, what we want to do is we want to sell them. So I'll give you an example of a couple that lived in Wisconsin. All right, now we don't do much business in Wisconsin because in that state, they don't sell bargain properties. They sell them for retail. Well, we're not in the retail business. We want to buy them with 60, 70%, 80% discount. So this couple, let's call them Sonny and Marcia, they decided they'll go over to Michigan and buy there. Now, they can do that online, but they also wanted to look at the property. Now, I'm going to tell you, you need to look at the property. You want boots on the ground, some eyes looking at it. Now, it don't have to be yours. You can have someone else look at it. So here's the deal they put together. Now, you're going to be amazed because they're going to make money quickly and they're going to make it easily. All right, so they go to the auction. They find a house that's 50 years old, but it's worth about $55,000 or $65,000, and they start bidding. Now, they did plenty of those houses that they missed, but this one they bought. They bought this house for $7,900. Now, let's call it $8,000 so it's easy to work with. So they bought a house that's worth $50,000 or $60,000 for $8,000. Now, they had to fix it up, so they did just that. They just cleaned it up. They took all the trash out. They didn't fix any structure. They didn't do any of that stuff you see on television. They just cleaned it up, tidied it up, and that cost them another $4,000, counting the dumpsters and putting up signs. Then they put a huge sign on the front, ugliest sign you ever saw in your life. They put it in front of the house. Then they went on Craigslist. They went on eBay. They went on Marketplace on Facebook. All right, they're going to sell the property. So they bought the property in December. They sold it in January. Let me say that again. They bought it in December. They sold it in January. All right. Now they purchased it, as you know, for $8,000 and $4,000. They purchased it for $12,000. They sold the property for $35,000. So they bought it low, marked it up for a nice profit, over $20,000, and then they sold it. And the buyer said, "Well, I'd like to make payments. Can I make payments to you?" And so they said, "Well, of course." So they accepted installment payments. All right, now what did they do? They did the same thing that Costco and Target did, yes. They did the same thing that Wells Fargo and Bank of America do, installment payments. All right, so they made a $20,000 plus profit when they sold it. Now they're going to take installment payments for 10 years. So they're going to do all this work in 1 month. Yeah, they bought it in November and they sold it in January. So let's say it's 2 months' work. All right, they're going to do 2 months. And when they sold it, if all the payments come in for the 10 years, they'll get $52,000. So let's do the math. $8,000 invested, $4,000 to fix up. Okay, you can figure that out. That's 12. They sold it for 35. They got a nice profit. Okay, the people wanted installment sale, so they took installment sales for the next 10 years. All right, they'll end up with $52,000. Folks, think of what we just did in a couple of months. All right, they bought a property, they sold it, they got $40,000. They're going to get $4,000 a month for the next 10 years. They only invested $12,000. Yes, they're going to make $52,000. Their return on investment, ROI, is more than 30% every year. The deal is so good, the banker has called them twice and said, "Can we buy your contract?" Folks, I'm giving you a system that works. It's worked for hundreds of years. It's almost too simple to do. You need to learn how to do it. I'm going to do a couple of questions, then we're going to call it a day. How does a tax lien auction work? Well, it's very easy. If you go to a tax lien auction, incidentally, I wasn't talking about tax liens today. I was talking about tax deeds where you actually get the property. If you go to a tax lien auction, they're going to tell you what the amount of the taxes is. And so what you're bidding on is the amount of interest that you're willing to accept. So if the auction starts at 18%, and someone else bids 18, then you might want to bid 17. The lowest bidder will get it. So it's, in other words, that's a reverse auction. There's about 15 different kind of auction bidding process, and all of those you can learn if you get the book that's down below you right now. How quick can an auction be, and how does it work? Once the county has confiscated the property, they'll put it on a list. Now the list could be, well, I'm going to hold one up. I'm going to show you a list from Los Angeles. Okay, now this is a list from Los Angeles, okay? On this list, there's over 1,500 properties. All right. They're going to sell all of these properties. They're going to try and do it in one day. They won't make it, but they'll try. All right, so they're going to auction these properties. As fast as you can snap your finger, they will auction a property. And so what they're going to do is they'll call out the property and they'll call out the number of the property. They sell everything by a property ID number. In California, they call that assessor's parcel number. Your state might call it something different. But it's basically the Social Security number for the property. They're going to sell all of those properties as fast as they can. They're not trying to get top dollar. They're trying to get their money so that they can pay the county employees. So let me tell you about those two mistakes that I'm concerned, and I want to teach you to avoid these mistakes. Number one mistake is this. People go to the auction, they get to the auction, and they start bidding, and they've never seen the property. Now, folks, you would not marry the woman if you hadn't seen her. Now, ladies, it works the same way. You're not going to marry the guy unless you'd seen him, right? All right, so let's look at these properties. You need to have boots on the ground and eyes on the property. Why? What if it had burned down? What if there was a hurricane? What if it was next to a big, long chicken barn? You wouldn't want to own a property next to a chicken barn. You wouldn't want to do that. So you have to look at the property. That's mistake one. Now, mistake two is similar. People get to the auction, and I know you're fired up. You're really going to make some big money, and you're determined you're going to win. And so what do? You start bidding, and you keep bidding. Now, you don't bid unless you have an exit strategy. Let me say that again. If you don't have an exit strategy, forget about bidding. Just forget it. Why? Because you could easily bid too high and go right by your exit strategy. So you need to know what you're going to sell this property for before you ever invest. All right, so thanks for watching today. I have a gift for you guys, and you're really going to like this gift, okay? Now, it's called the Safe Haven, and it's going to talk about two things that are important to you. It's going to talk about tax lien certificates, show you how to make money there, give you a lot of inside secrets, and also it's going to talk about tax defaulted property. You call those tax deeds. Now, those tax deeds are issued by the states when they sell the property, sometimes 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar. So both of those are included in the Safe Haven. You want to take advantage of that. All you have to do is go below me and register. And if you have questions, put them in there too. I'll look forward to talking with you.